there, club members, and welcome to this week's Lunch and Learn. Today we're talking about why I think that the role of dental receptionist is so powerful in your practice. Quite often we can think, oh, anyone can just sit there at reception, no big deal, we just need someone there to answer the phone and welcome patients in. But the role is so much more than that. So I want to take you through a few points about why I think the role of receptionist needs to be filled with somebody who is an absolute superstar. Let's get started. Reason number one why I think the role of receptionist is so powerful, or can be so powerful in your practice, is that they convert new callers. So as people are ringing around dental practices trying to choose which one that they want to go and see, which one they're going to make an appointment time with, maybe that they have heard all about you from a friend or family member or co-worker, and they ring up to book an appointment time if everything sounds okay. If the receptionist who is answering the phone either doesn't maintain the expectation of the new caller calling in, and the expectation of the new caller may be because they've developed something in their brain from what their friend or family member said, oh my God, they're so friendly, you've got to call my practice. And they call your practice and the receptionist is rude and abrupt. It doesn't really meet the expectation the person had. Maybe your website and Facebook presence, online presence, gives the indication that you are very top-notch professional, on top of everything. And they ring up and they've got somebody answering the phone who sounds unsure, a bit random, maybe not totally professional. That's not really hitting the mark in terms of meeting their expectations either. Possibly the patient is just purely in pain. And what if they ring up your practice and they come across a receptionist who really doesn't seem to care that much and treats the phone call more of a pain, an interruption to their day, rather than truly wanting to manage this particular patient who's in urgent need of care? Let's think about a patient who may be unhappy with their regular dental practice. These are the patients that you want. You want to build your practice out with as many regular attending patients as possible. But for some reason, they've become unhappy with the services they've been receiving from their current dental practice. So they're doing a bit of a ring around and they ring 1, 2, 3 practices. And the treatment they get by the receptionist at each call is all pretty standard. Why are any of these people going to end up booking in with your practice? And the link there is the receptionist, how well they build rapport, how empathetic they can be, how well they can deliver great customer service over the telephone with those people. So rather than a patient ringing up and getting a pretty standard or substandard response from the receptionist, instead, they've got somebody on the other end of the phone that makes them feel like, man, I've called the right place. I don't need to ring around anymore. I'm booking in with this practice because that receptionist sounds like she's got all the solutions to my problems, all the answers to my questions. Sounds truly empathetic. I'm in pain and she really feels like she cares about me. And that receptionist is delivering the kind of standard of care that my friends and family told me that I would receive if I contacted this practice. And so this is one of the reasons why I feel like your receptionist plays such a powerful role in your practice, because they encourage new patients to schedule their first booking when they are phoning around practices to find the best one. The next reason is that they can be a great rapport builder, and great rapport builders develop very strong relationships with every patient walking through the door. We've all been witness to really tremendous receptionists in our time. They are the ones that have that wonderful discussion, interesting, caring discussion with the patients when they're sitting there in the waiting room. They're the one when the patient rings up to confirm their appointment time or to change their appointment time from one day to another. It's not just a functional phone call, but it's a phone call that's a real, true conversation, happy rapport going on during that conversation. How about when the patient comes out from the dental surgery itself and comes to the reception desk to pay their account? Rather than just going through the motions of getting that account paid, that great rapport building patient is saying to them, so Tom, how'd you go with today's appointment time? Was it as traumatic as you thought it would be, or was it actually all okay? And so they're making those sort of daily interactions with patients, they're building so much rapport in with it. You can see that patient and receptionist developing a strong relationship. And after many years, we've got receptionists that have been sitting on the front desk for 20 years and they know everything about every patient. And you think, gosh, where would this practice be without this fantastic person that feels like they're the hub, the heart and soul of all the relationships that go on with this practice? And so that's the second reason I think that the role of receptionist is just so powerful in your practice, because a great rapport builder builds really strong relationships. And quite often, that really strong relationship with the receptionist, all of a sudden, it can compensate for the little interruptions that can happen, such as, oh, our compressor's not working today. Oh, we're running a bit late. Sorry, you're waiting in the waiting room for a bit too long. The little bits and pieces that can go on through the daily operations of the day that make us feel like, gosh, I'm so pleased this patient has such a strong bond with our practice, because that's what's carrying them through the ups and downs that can sometimes happen. It's also through that strong relationship that the receptionist can have with the patients, where she or he feels quite comfortable asking a patient, would you mind giving us a 5-star Google review? Have you ever thought about recommending us to your friends and family? We really do grow through referrals of patients like you. Also, the longevity of a patient relationship with your practice, the loyalty that they extend to your practice, they keep coming year after year after year. Quite often, it's not just because of the clinical aspect of the treatment. They may not know the difference between a great cleaning and a standard cleaning, a great dental examination and a standard dental examination. But what they do know is how the practice makes them feel. And the receptionist is the most common person that they do see, even if the patient comes in, may have a different dental assistant on a number of occasions, may even need to see a different dentist within the practice on a number of occasions. The one person they see all the time, the one person who's contacting them all the time in regards to their confirmations of appointment times, the one person who is answering the telephone every single time they ring, that constant person is their receptionist. And if that receptionist is a great rapport builder, it's going to so powerfully build your dental practice. The next reason why I think your dental receptionist is so powerful in your practice is that they help patients overcome their barriers. And there could be the financial barrier to booking in for that treatment plan. It could be the barrier of, I just don't understand 100% what's going on with my treatment, or that crown, or that root canal. Can you further explain what's going on for me? So whatever barrier that patient may have in terms of trying to book in their appointment times, the person who's got all the solutions is the receptionist. So whether it's, I don't understand what's going on, I don't have the time to book an appointment time, the schedule doesn't allow for it, I can't afford the treatment, that's where the receptionist comes in, swoops in like Superwoman, Superman, and says, don't worry, if you can't afford it, I've got these different payment options that I can step you through. We can find a way of you getting that treatment for you. The schedule doesn't allow for things. Okay, let's see what we can do in planning ahead and making sure that whether it's you getting a bit of time off and then having a work certificate, maybe we do a Saturday every month and I'll make sure you get into one of those sessions. I'll help you overcome the scheduling barriers and the understanding barrier as well. I'll explain everything to the best of my knowledge. If I feel like as a receptionist, you, the patient, need even further explanation, I'm going to book a no-charge consultation with you, with the dentist, so they can go through things with you again to the point where you truly understand what's going on in terms of your oral health. And so a switched on receptionist, a mindful receptionist, a receptionist who truly cares about whether that patient books in for the treatment or not, they can truly help patients overcome whatever barriers they may have. The fourth reason, I think we're up to the fourth reason, is that the receptionist plays a crucial role in how smooth the daily operations are. You think about all the things that can go wrong, interrupt the day, such as patients turning up late because they weren't quite sure what time their appointment time was, such as it's 10 o'clock, where's my 9:30 patient? It's been half an hour, obviously they're not coming, but we didn't even follow up on that. What about that OPG was never attached to that patient card, and now I've got to run around and try to figure out where that OPG is and upload it into the system? So the receptionist, especially if you have a morning huddle each day, which I strongly urge every dental practice to do to start to identify potential interruptions to the daily operation, the dental receptionist is the one that's keeping an eye on the time, looking for the next patients who are due. That patient isn't turning up. It's 3 past 10. I'm going to make sure I call them straight away, make sure they're on their way. That's a new patient. It's 2 past 10. I'll give them a call, make sure they're not lost. They can find out where we are. And in those morning huddles, we've identified there's 2 OPGs that need to be attached. I'll jump onto that straight away. So by the time that appointment time comes up, everything is set and raring to go. Let's think about patients who may need antibiotic cover prior to their appointment time. It has certainly been part of my experience that a patient turns up for their appointment time, they go through to the treatment room for their scale and clean, and it's at that point it's found out, and it's at that point that it's been discovered that the patient needed to go on antibiotics, hasn't done so, and so that's a wasted appointment time. All of these things get caught by a great receptionist. They're on top of each one of these things. They've got their alerts to make sure they pick up on those antibiotic cover patients. They've got their alert that this one's particularly nervous, so we'll add a little bit longer for the appointment time so we can get the pen drops happening. We are making sure that our patients are coming in as scheduled, and I'm calling up those that are not sticking to their time. So a great receptionist is absolutely all over that appointment book and the patients and what they need to be able to have the appointment times run through really smoothly. And as we know, every inefficiency in the appointment book costs money at the end of the day and increases stress for your team members. And a team member with increased stress, that can be felt by the patients as well. And we certainly don't want patients waiting in the waiting room getting testy that you're running late yet again because the daily operations are so chaotic. That's just now is the way you do things at your practice. And so you will be able to see why I think this is another reason why the receptionist is such a powerful role within your practice. Also, follow up. Who's there to follow up all the patients that don't book in for their dental treatments? We couldn't get them over the barriers that they may have had in scheduling their appointment time on the day. Maybe they have legitimate reasons. They really do need to check their work schedule. They need to manage their finances with their spouse to make sure they can afford the services. The only person that knows in the moment when that patient doesn't book in for that next appointment time is the receptionist. So a great receptionist has a process that they follow to make sure that they follow it up in some way. It is always best that a patient leaves with an appointment time somewhere. And what I mean by that is if they don't have any active treatment plan being suggested to them, if they don't have any active treatment plan that's been advised to them, you book them in for their 6-monthly recall ahead of time. It's a pre-scheduled recall appointment time. If they elect not to do that, then the receptionist makes sure they are in the active recall system. If they don't book in for advised treatment, the receptionist in her online diary, her online calendar, Google Calendar, for example, makes an appointment time for them in her calendar. This particular patient, I think I'll call them in 1 week. This one really doesn't seem that interested, and I think I'll be harassing them, upsetting them. If I call them in a week, I'm going to call them in 3 weeks instead. That receptionist who's really switched on is making sure that the appointment time is actually booked in the schedule itself for treatment or scheduling in for the follow-up communication in their own online calendar. So no one falls through the cracks and doesn't get an appointment time of some kind of follow-up, if not an actual appointment time. So the receptionist who's doing that is performing a very powerful task for your practice. The tremendous superstar receptionists out there also do a great job at fostering the practice image. So your image might be high professionalism. It could be high technology. It could be we're the friendliest practice on the face of the earth. It could be we are family oriented, very child friendly, for example. You are putting out messages via your online presence, your website, for example, and your signage at the front and any advertising and promotional material you put out there. Even patients that are your existing patients right now and what they're telling their friends and families about you. This is all the image of your practice. And you want to make sure that your receptionist falls in line with that image, helps support and foster that image. So, for example, if you are out there as an image of being one of the most highly professional health services in the area, you want to make sure that your receptionist is hired who has got the skills and experience to portray that to whoever's calling in over the phone or coming in physically in person. If you're out there as being a very child-friendly practice, you don't want to have a receptionist who is anti-children and just doesn't get along well with them, doesn't understand children. You want them to be able to come in, these children, into the practice with their parents and have the receptionist go, "Oh, hi, Johnny, it's so good to see you again. Gosh, you're getting to be such a big boy. You look very handsome today." And have great rapport building skills with kids. And so think of that when you've got your receptionist on the front desk. How can we get this receptionist to truly understand and appreciate what the image of the practice is? And then how is that person going to be able to foster that for your practice? Seventh reason why the role of receptionist is so powerful in your practice is they manage complaints. A majority of the time, that the first person to hear that a patient is complaining is the receptionist. It is also true that it's the receptionist quite often that can pick up that there might be some unrest with a particular patient that they can then tap into and say, "I sense you may not be 100% happy with what's going on. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?" And so they can become a master complaint manager, really converting people who are upset to people who feel like, "Oh, that's okay. This person's going to help manage my complaint, manage the situation so I end up being happy." And so they do a lot to field and resolve all the patient complaints and pick up on any signs of upset that the patients may have. Sometimes a receptionist who may be less experienced can be on that journey of developing up enough confidence and enough experience to be able to manage patient complaints. The only way to get good at it is to do it in a thoughtful and considered way. And what I mean by that is let's think about some of the complaints that do come through on a regular basis. It might be you're too far ahead booked. You're too far out booked, I can't even get in to see you, or I just can't afford these treatments, or that particular dentist always seems like they're overcharging me. So each different practice may have common complaints that happen on a not regular basis, but these are the top couple of things that people do tend to complain about at this particular practice. So let's role play with our receptionist, making sure that she or he becomes very confident in managing those complaints, have the solutions for those complaints. Maybe it's that you're always running late. That can be a very common complaint in some practices. And then with the not so usual complaints, that each time a complaint does happen, that receptionist is moving through a process of thinking to themselves, what did this patient complain about? What could be the solution I offer if that complaint comes up again in the future, or that I can get back to this patient with that solution? Because if you can't find a solution straight away to a complaint, always reassure the patient you'll come back to them with a solution once you've had a chance to consider things or speak to the practice manager or owner about it. But the elegant management of patient complaints can help convert patients who could be quite unhappy with you, but because of the way they were managed when they were upset, they think this receptionist is all over it. I now really trust this receptionist to be able to help me with whatever may come up for me in the future. The other end of the complaint spectrum is maybe it's a routinely unhappy patient who complains about everything under the sun, and you are just not the practice for this patient. It's usually the receptionist that, if they are well experienced and you do have that trust and faith in them, that they are the ones that are politely saying to the patient, "I'm so sorry, we can't manage to meet your expectations. And I know there's a practice out there for you that's going to make you a very happy patient. We are not that practice. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is do a bit of a ring around, find one that you really like. I'm going to help you in any way I can to get all your records forwarded on, and manage those sort of situations with grace and elegance." And the last reason I'm going to go through today, the eighth reason why I think the role of receptionist is so extremely powerful in your practice, is that the receptionist becomes that main hub for your whole dental team. Quite often, nurse from surgery 1 and nurse from surgery 2 don't get a chance to cross paths through the day. Sometimes the dentist over there needs to speak to the bookkeeper over there, and they're not getting a chance to be able to cross paths properly. The main person that is in constant communication with all the team members through the day is quite often the receptionist. So they become the hub of the team communications. And so if your practice, and I think every practice does need this, needs that go-to person. Oh, could you quickly note down that we need H written on the to be ordered list? Oh, I need that particular instrument in this surgery, but they're taking an x-ray, I can't get it right now. Can you jump in after they've taken that x-ray and grab that instrument for me? They becomes a key part of all the team members getting what they need done in order to operate their day smoothly and efficiently. The other element is too that every now and again there might be a bit of a gripe that one of the team members has about another team member. Maybe there is a legitimate concern that a team member has that they need to talk out and get a solution for. Quite often that receptionist, if they're a caring, thoughtful, mature, experienced, self-aware person, they can really help to manage the team function and how happy everyone is within the team. They're there as a constant buffer to people's possible tensions to make sure they don't spill over. They're there to listen to a complaining word just so that other team member can get it out of their mouth and then drop it. Or they're there to think, oh gosh, this team member seems to be quite upset about this thing on a number of occasions. I'm going to go to the practice manager or the dentist and say, I think this is a situation that needs to be managed because it seems to be something brewing there that could get bigger and bigger. So as that main hub person of the practice, they can play a substantial role in making sure the team are getting everything they need for the day and also that they are as happy as possible and anything that's possibly festering is calmed down by the truly talented receptionist. So there you go. There's my 8 reasons why I think you've got to be truly careful about who you appoint. As the receptionist in your practice, it's an enormously powerful role which has a powerful impact on your practice success. And if you have a receptionist in that role and you think, gosh, there are areas where they can be improved, encourage them to jump into the club lunch and learns and one by one start developing stronger skills in each of the areas that's going to have an influencing impact on the success of your practice. So the conversion of new callers, gosh, that's business growth, isn't it? Building rapport, that's making sure patients stay and are happy. Overcoming barriers, making sure your appointment book remains filled, the daily operations, efficiency, productivity, following up on incomplete treatments, making sure patients continue coming back for those advised treatment plans, fostering the practice image, managing the complaints. We want to make sure we temper those sort of things and making sure your team remained functional and happy. I do hope you have received value from today's Lunch and Learn. I hope all the receptionists out there are feeling emboldened and thinking, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. I'm quite powerful in my role. I'm going to make sure I do it to the best of my abilities. And if there are any elements of that role that you would like focused on in future Lunch and Learns, just shoot me through an email or a phone call. I would be really happy to speak with you. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.